Hey everybody, it's Chris Hanschmidt, and this is my gift to you. This is my training on recruiting. I've been in the network marketing industry for 29 years as of the um, recording of this video, and I'm not a top earner. I don't want to portray myself as somebody who's, wealthy or anything like that, but I am a success, and success to me is, I heard this once from an Amway distributor named Dexter Yeager. Success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal or dream. And that's true. I have definitely achieved my definition of success up to this point in time, and I am progressing towards greater and greater levels of success. And success is subjective. Every one of us is going to have to define success for ourselves. And in my mind today, I'm extremely successful. I've made money in the industry. I've built teams in several companies. I was the top recruiter in a company in the 90s that eventually went out of business. And I've learned a lot. I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly. And I'm here to share what I have learned, what I have used successfully, and what I know with you here today. So I've got a lot to cover with you. This video might be a little bit on the long side, but I've got all kinds of stuff to cover with you. I've got and I've got some notes here, so bear with me while I look off to the side here. I've got 5 pages of notes for you. I've got the three number one ingredients for or the number one things to keep in mind, that is, for success in network marketing. I've got oh my goodness, I've got all kinds of stories for you. I've got the importance of being nice, honest, and respectful. I have the 3 costumes that you'll want to put on as a network marketing distributor and what that means. I've got the entire process to share with you on how to go through the process to gain success in the industry. We're going to talk a bit about personal development, the difference between sales and marketing, attraction marketing, spamming, ethical practices, scripts, rejection, failure, retention, motivation, inspiration, also social media. Going to get a little bit into social media, automation, and what it is and what it isn't, and also a list of a few people that I want to recommend to you as go-to people for you to continually sharpen your axe, so to speak, in this industry so you can get the most out of the techniques that are available to you. Abe Lincoln reportedly once said if he had 4 hours to chop down a tree, he would spend 3 of those hours sharpening his axe. And this industry really comes down to 3 things primarily, and we're going to go into a little bit of detail about this. The first is numbers, the importance of numbers. The second is skills, and the third is attitudes. And I'll just go ahead and dive right in with the first one here. Probably the most important thing to keep in mind in success in this business is large numbers of contacts, large numbers of attempts. My first company was Amway back in 1992. And I remember a story of a very successful multimillionaire named Bill Britt. And this little story, this illustration that he puts out there illustrates the importance of numbers. He was said to have contacted 1,200 people in his career. And out of those 1,200, 900 of them, and these are approximate numbers. I may not have the numbers exactly correct, but these are approximate numbers. Of the 1,200 people, 900 of them said no, and only 300 said yes. And of those 300 people that joined him in the business, 2 out of 3, 200 people, a little bit more than 200 people, actually ended up quitting within a very short period of time. Of the people that were left, only about 80 people were serious enough to do anything other than use the products. Of those 80 people, about 35 of them were serious enough that they persisted over a period of time in going through the process that we're going to talk about. And of those 35 people, 11 people made him a multimillionaire. So that really shows the importance of numbers. And there's an old saying in the industry: whatever you lack in skill, especially in the beginning for new people, whatever you lack in skill, you make up for in numbers until your skill catches up and your numbers improve. So in network marketing, let me back up just a second. You maybe have heard the story of the oyster diver, and the oyster diver goes down and he's looking for pearls. He catches casts nets for oysters and makes a haul, brings it back up to the boat, and actually breaks open each oyster individually in search of pearls. And for every 100 or so oysters, an oyster diver or harvester can expect to find probably 1 or 2 pearls out of every 100 oysters. In network marketing, it's pretty similar, actually. I know we all want it to be, relatively easy. We want instant gratification. We want most people to be interested. We want most people to sign up. And the bottom line is that that's just not the case. In network marketing, even the very best people typically only sponsor between 1 up to maybe 5 people out of 100. And with follow-up, everybody doesn't join on the first attempt, the first approach. So with time and repetition and follow-up, the best people in the industry might get up to 10% or so, 12%. Out of every 100 may end up signing that number of people up over time, which means 88 to 90% of the people that they approach never ever join them in their business. And really, that's part of the that's part of the game of network marketing, is just being okay with that. It has nothing to do with you as a person, has nothing to do with your skill, your talent, it has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that it's just what it is. I mean, it's Jim Rohn, a very famous business philosopher. He's deceased now, rest in peace, Jim. But he used to say that. Let's see, what is it he said? He said, if you're looking for answers and you're asking the question why does it have to be this way? Why is that? He said, don't sign up for that class. Just accept it for what it is. And this is what it is. You're only going to sponsor 3 to 5, maybe 10% of the people that you approach over time in this business. And that's actually what creates the opportunity. I mean, think about it. If most people joined, then saturation would be a reality rather than a myth, and the whole world would be signed up in a very short period of time, and there'd be nobody left to enroll in our businesses and for us to be successful. So if you think about it, the opportunity comes from the fact that that most people say no. So we just have to accept that and be okay with that, and realize it has nothing to do with ourselves as people or our skills or anything. There's no reason in feeling rejected or unworthy or anything like that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but it has nothing to do with any of that. It's just the way it is. So in terms of numbers, I mentioned make up in numbers what you lack in skill. And years ago, I made an analogy with a quarter. Let's say you've got a quarter. I don't have one here handy, but let's say you've got a quarter. You've got a heads and a tails, right? Heads, they get in. Tails, they don't. And your job is simply to flip the quarter and just make a game out of it. Flip the quarter, Tails, they didn't get in. Tails, they stood me up on the follow-up call. Tails, they didn't, want to have anything to do with my particular product or service. Tails, they'd heard bad thing about the companies. Tails, tails, tails. And then all of a sudden, heads. And you realize you've got a 50-50 chance every time you flip a quarter in getting a heads or a tails. And The more heads, the more coin flips that you want to turn into heads, the more times you need to flip the quarter overall, because the more times you flip the quarter, the more times you'll get heads coming up versus tails. So just keep that in mind. Just flip the quarter, just go through the process, which I'm going to go through in detail with you here in a little bit. And don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. I mean, after all, we're here to build a business long term. We're not here to, get rich by next week. I know we all have fallen for that. We all want it to happen quickly. We all have a certain degree of impatience and so on, but we can't actually look at it that way. This is a long-term proposition. I mean, like I told you, I've been in the industry for 29 years and I'm not rich yet, okay? So give it time. We all have to grow in this business. We all have to learn how to do this. We have to learn how to have the right attitudes, develop the right skills, and so on and so forth. And that's what I'll get into next, is the skills and the attitudes. This has nothing to do with talent. Anybody can do this business. Now, not everybody will, and a lot of people will choose not to, and some people will get started and they'll quit, just like the Bill Britt story illustrated. But it has nothing to do with our talent. It has to do with all kinds of other factors, but your talent's not important. Your experience level's not important. The skills required to the process itself and going through this business is pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to it, but it takes testing, it takes development, it takes personal growth. It has nothing to do with your background. I mean, I remember Kim Claver, who I'll mention again later in this recording. She when she was building one of her companies back in the day, I believe it was her NSA business with water filters, she sponsored somebody who operated a tuna boat. And this guy went on to make $15,000 or $20,000 a month, and he operated a tuna boat. I mean, through the years, I've heard all kinds of and seen all kinds of people from all different kinds of backgrounds make it in this business, and there's no reason why you can't either. Homeless people, people with disabilities. One company I was in about 8 years ago, there was a woman in Australia who had a spinal disease, spinal bifida. She couldn't even sit up, so she would spend hours on her bed, on her stomach, with her laptop computer in front of her, building her business, and she achieved a good level of success doing that. Success in this business has nothing to do with your self-worth. I'll tell a story about that in a little bit, but it's got nothing to do with your self-esteem or how you feel about yourself. You can go ahead and get started like I did back in the beginning, and I'll tell that story, and just learn and grow as you go, as you exercise patience and go through the process. But what it does take are the proper attitudes to start with, and some skills also. I mean, there are some skills involved. None of them are particularly difficult, but let's start with the attitudes. So I've got a list of attitudes and skills that I wrote down here that I thought of everything that I could think of in this list about what it takes to be an effective sponsor or an effective leader in the business. And let's just start by going down the list and talking at least a little bit about each one. The first thing I came up with was caring. It's important in this business to actually care for people, to love people, to want to help people. And it took me a while to learn this, but in order to get somebody to even listen to you and consider joining with you in a business, you need to treat other people like you would want to be treated yourself. So you think about human nature. I'm going to pause right here and just say, become a student of human nature. Become a student of yourself and your own feelings, and come to realize that pretty much everybody has the same feelings, the same attitudes. I mean, we're all human, right? We're all pretty much the same, and everybody wants to be treated well. Everyone wants to be treated with kindness. Everyone wants to be treated respectfully. And it's important to treat other people like you would want to be treated. So we'll talk more about that in in later parts of this, but it's really important to care about people. And even Zig Ziglar had a quote, rest in peace, Zig. He said at one point that, let's see, what was that quote? People don't know how much, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That was one of them. And the other was help enough other people get what they want, and you will have no problem getting what you want. And that certainly is appropriate in this business. The next thing is on the list of attitudes here is being positive. By default, I was raised in a kind of a let's just say somewhat of a dysfunctional environment, and it was hard for me to learn positivity because you've heard that expression, are you a person who views the glass as half full or half empty? Well, I was a half empty guy for a large portion of my life. And it takes effort to, turn that around and become a person who sees the glass as being half full. But that comes down to having, positive dreams. What is it you want for your life? What is it that is important to you? And right along with that is the proper self-talk. If we heard other people talking to their family or to us the way we talk to ourselves, we would be incredibly judgmental, incredibly critical of that. We would look down upon that as, what the heck? I mean, you wouldn't be able to believe it, but we're so self-critical sometimes that it's just really important. And this is part of training your subconscious mind as well to perform and to have the proper attitudes, the proper belief systems, and so on. It's important to engage in really positive self-talk. You might want to look up an author who writes about this topic. His name is Shad Helmstetter, Helmstetter, I believe. He has written several books on self-talk, and that'll be very helpful for you. The next thing is, has goals, has something they want to accomplish, and the difference between a dream and a goal. A dream is like a lifestyle or an ultimate objective as to how you want your life to be. A goal is something that can be broken down and measured so that when you've achieved it, you'll know that you have, and then you can go out and set a new goal. Another example of what it takes to be an effective sponsor or leader is the ability to tell a good story and or present. And this is a little bit more of a skill than an attitude. Most of these on this list are actually you're going to find to be attitudes. But there's a few skills here too, and the ability to tell a story, we'll talk more about that later, is extremely important because people respond to stories. They don't respond well to facts and logic, except when it's time to justify the decision they've already made to buy or to enroll. Emotionally, with some logic, people justify their emotional choices with logic. So stories actually have, that's how information has been passed down through the centuries. The Bible is composed of parables and stories, and people sitting around campfires throughout history have, not sitting there reciting facts. They're telling stories and engaging their children and their families and so on with stories that can then be passed along. And stories are really what constitutes the main fabric of human communication, is the ability to tell a good story. Another thing is listening, and that comes into play a lot of times with follow-up in the process. We'll come back to that a little later, but the ability to listen to somebody and really, it goes back to caring as well. Are you going to listen to the person you're speaking with to truly find out what it is they want? Do you care enough to listen? Or all we gonna do is just spout our mouth and talk about our company and our products and our compensation plan and this and that? No, No, I'm telling you now, I've tried that. Believe me, I've done that over the years and it doesn't work all that well. What does work is listening to people, finding out what their dreams are, what their goals are, what problems they may be experiencing, and then helping them to reach those dreams and goals and help them solve those problems. Um, Another thing, now this is a skill, the ability to actually ask for a sign up. We're all afraid of rejection. We're all afraid of failure. Um, I remember back in my Amway days in the 90s, I heard one of the diamonds say from stage that it's so important you have to double and triple your rate of failure. And it brought to mind as I grew to understand this, in baseball, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but in baseball, they have something called an RBI. It's runs batted in, and you might know that the uh, the record holder, or at least one of the top couple, I don't know if he was ever beat, for home runs was Babe Ruth. But what a lot of people don't know is that the record holder for strikeouts is also Babe Ruth. So, what can we learn from that? Well, he got up to the plate more times than anybody else. He struck out more times than anybody else. But because of the law of averages, because he flipped the quarter at the plate and took the swing at the ball, because he did that more times than anybody else, he got more home runs than anybody else. And that's what failure is. A lot of people think failure is going in the opposite direction from success. But the truth of the matter is that failure is actually part of the path to success. It's on the path to success. You go through failure to achieve your definition of success, and they're not going in opposite directions. So embrace failure. This is difficult, I know, and it's something to wrestle with, but once you truly understand, look at all the greats out there, all the greats in the world, in whatever industry, whatever sport. They all embraced failure, went through that to achieve their level of success. And that's what we have to do here in network marketing as well. Rejection. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but rejection is really a feeling. It's not truly an event. It's not real. It's not really happening out there in the world. It's how we feel when we find ourselves in a certain situation. And things changed for me when I realized rejection wasn't fatal. I mean, I never died by being rejected, and we all get rejected in various ways through life, in school, and from our friends sometimes, or various situations. It's a part of life, but it's never fatal, and it's important to deal with that. As far as failure, I want to tell a quick story about Thomas Edison. He was the guy that invented the light bulb, and he was interviewed by a reporter at some point, and he said, or he was asked, Edison was asked by the reporter, "How does it feel to have failed 10,000 times over and over to invent the light bulb?" Because this is what had happened. And his response was, "I haven't failed at all. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that it won't work." Talk about mindset. Talk about the proper way of looking at the goal that he wanted to achieve. And it was soon thereafter, it was somewhere after 10,000 attempts, that he finally succeeded. He tried something. That didn't work. He tried something else. He tried a new filament. He tried a new this, that, or the other. I don't know all the details. I'm not a, expert on light bulbs, but he tried something new. He went back to the drawing board. He spent more time in the lab. He did this. He did that. He tried something else. And after X number of times, and I believe it was somewhere after 10,000 attempts, he invented the light bulb, and we all benefit from that today. So failure and rejection, they're all pretty much, again, they're mindset things. They're perspectives. And we need to find a way to turn those things around so that we can view what we're doing in a positive way. It comes back to the quality of being positive. Do we think the glass is half full, or do we think the glass is half empty? So I'll tell you a quick story. Back when I was in a company, a telecommunications company in the mid 90s, I was sitting in front of a guy. He owned a muffler shop, and it wasn't a particularly attractive place. This guy was in greasy overalls, and he didn't look like much, right? Another thing, you never want to prejudge anybody. You just show your business to anybody who raises their hand with having an interest to look, and that's what this guy had done. So I sat down with him with a little flip chart, and I'm showing him the business, the telecommunications business. There's a lot of money to be involved in the business, a lot with the sign-up bonuses and stuff, and I went through the flip chart and I showed him the whole deal. Probably took me about 20 minutes to get through it. And at the end of the presentation, I was afraid. I was actually afraid. I didn't think this guy was going to sign up. I really didn't. He didn't look the part. He hadn't shown a lot of, positive enthusiasm or anything during the presentation. And I was definitely afraid of failing, but I swallowed and took the plunge, and I said, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I asked the guy to sign up. I said, would you like to get started? You know what he did? He reached in his pocket and he pulled out a wad of $100 bills like this, and he peeled off 5 of them and handed them to me. That's the only time that anybody had ever handed me cash after showing them the business. And I was like floored. And I signed the man up, and turns out he didn't end up doing a whole lot. But the point being is, I asked for the order, I asked for the enrollment, and I got it. And if you don't ask, you don't get. You might not always get, but you can't get an enrollment or a sign up or a sale at all unless you ask for it. So that's the point there. This one's an attitude. Being social. It's important to be social and to like people, and it's important to care about people, as we were talking about earlier. It's important to be a social human being in building the business. Another thing is leading by example. We're out there. We can't expect anybody to do what we're not willing to do. And I remember a guy years ago who achieved some level of success because he had somebody in his downline who had achieved success, and it actually helped him rise in the ranks a little bit. And this guy would, basically just kind of strut around and act like he was all that and a bag of chips because he had somebody underneath him that had propelled him up the ranks a little bit. And he wasn't leading by example. He wasn't talking to more people. He wasn't leveraging that story to go out there and continue to get more success in his business. It's important to be authentic and aligned and congruent. And that really is important with like the product or service that you choose to represent. Ask yourself, how do you feel about it? How do you truly feel about it? Now, feelings are a double-edged sword. We're going to come back to the other side of this here in a minute. But regarding being authentic, do you really feel good about what you're offering? Because if you don't, the chances of you succeeding are not all that great, unless you're like, some BS artist who just is going out there and just trying to bamboozle people into buying your stuff, even though you don't care that much about it. Yeah, a small percentage of the population could do that, but I'm assuming that you're, a real person who truly is interested in success and doing it properly. And what is important there, one of the things is being authentic, being congruent with your values. It took me a long time to figure this out. A long time. All I wanted to do was make money, right? All I wanted to do was just have as fast a success as I could. I promoted all kinds of stuff over the years that I realized later, looking back, like, I wasn't all that excited about it. I just wanted to make money with it. And I made that mistake more times than I can count. So don't do that. Another thing, having a thick skin, comes back to rejection a little bit. None of this stuff is fatal. If somebody says no to you, Just imagine like it's a little tiny arrow made out of a paper clip, and it's just think, think off your face, think, think, bouncing off, falling to the floor. You're still smiling, you're good, no problem. Thick skin. Let this stuff. Think of a rhinoceros. Rhinoceros doesn't care if he runs into a field full of thorns, right? It's not going to bother him. It's hardly going to scratch him up. Have a thick skin. Similarly to that is being detached, not being attached to the outcome, not being so desperate for the sale that you'll do or say anything in order to get that sale. Be detached from the outcome, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, how it goes into the process here in a little bit, but this comes into play a lot with friends and family. Don't do what I did back in the beginning. I hounded my friends and family in the beginning. I went to not all of them, but a lot of them, and just pestered them and pestered them. And then after a while, no one wanted to talk to me anymore. They would all now I'm being funny here. I'm not being literal, but they all would run. They all would just hold up their garlic and their cross and say, "Don't come and talk to me anymore. I don't want to hear about your business." Don't do that. Be detached. Be low key. Be excited, but be low key. And when I was in Amway, I remember basically going after the same 8 or 10 people over and over again. I didn't know back then that I needed to talk to lots of people. Again, going back to the law of numbers, you can't build a business by going back to the same 8 or 10 people all the time. And so I'd make my circle, and I'd go to each one of them, and I'd show them or take them to a hotel meeting or whatever. And then, when I didn't have anybody else to talk to, or at least I thought I didn't, because I was uncomfortable getting out of my comfort zone and striking up new friendships and making new contacts, I'd go back to the same 8 or 10 people again, a month or two later, and try it all over again. Well, needless to say, I failed. So don't do that. Next one is being patient. Again, we all want to make money quickly. We all have a certain level of greed. We all want to succeed sooner rather than later, but this business is a personal growth business disguised as an income opportunity. And we have to grow. We have to learn how to be patient. We have to learn how to relax. We have to learn how to mold our attitudes and train our subconscious mind in order for us to be able to take the steps and persist in those steps to go the distance and succeed. It's so important. Again, back to the Thomas Edison story. If he had not been patient, if he had not been willing to test and tweak and go back and try again and be patient, he knew that he would ultimately realize his goal, his objective. He knew it. How could he not? He wouldn't have persisted if he didn't know up here, if he wasn't convinced and committed up here that he would get to where he wanted to go. He was patient. He was committed. And comes down to testing and tweaking and just continuing to take one step after the other. There's an old Chinese proverb that says the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's important to be a product of the product. Again, being back to authentic and aligned with what you choose to promote. Be a product of the product. I have been with a health and nutrition company for about 20 years, and I love the products. I love the products, and I'm still on the way to becoming a full product of the products because I haven't used a huge selection of them. I need to use a lot more than I have in the past. But of course, I realize that's what's important is to, the more product experiences I have, the more I can share those experiences with others. Same thing with a service. If you're selling a service, do you use the service? Do you have it in your home? Do you feel really good about it? Are you a product of the service? If so, then you've got a good combination there. And next one is being passionate. Again, this is similar to what we've been talking about. Are you really passionate about what you represent? Is it important to you? Do you really see that it meets a need in the marketplace? Are you excited about what it's done for you or your family? And are you excited about taking that to the world? Are you passionate about what you're doing? Um, Another thing about don't quit and perseverance, another factor here. There's this movie you might want to look up. I saw it in the 90s. It's a movie called Rudy. It's a story about Rudy Rudiger, who was a young man who had a dream to play football for Notre Dame. And he was, the only problem was he didn't really have any skill or talent. He was small. He was like 5'8" or something like that. And the whole movie, it's incredible. He just fails and fails and fails and fails and finally lands a spot on the team only to sit on the bench and fails and fails and fails and fails. And the last game of the last season while he's in school, he manages to get on the field, and and his family happens to be sitting in the stands because he convinced them to come and to see, because he said, I'm going to get in the game. I'm going to get in the game. I know I need to prove it to you that I'm on the team. You are going to see me on the field. And he gets on the field and has two big plays that it didn't make a difference in the game because they lost anyway, but he achieved his dream. It wasn't important. He got on the field and he played football for Notre Dame. He achieved his dream. Don't quit. That's the whole point here. Another thing is getting out of our comfort zone. What is fear exactly? Fear is, there's an acronym that a lot of people have used: false evidence appearing real. Fear is pretty much in our heads. It's wired into our nervous system because of, when, I guess, caveman days or something like that. We had to have a reaction in our body to escape those, saber-toothed tigers or bears or whatever. We needed to have a reaction that would be that would protect us from fear. Is just our way of our nervous system's way of protecting us from something that it perceives as dangerous. Well, there's nothing dangerous about. I've never had anybody attack me. Never had anybody get really loud and obnoxious with me. Never had anybody come after me, with a knife or a gun because I showed them a network marketing business. It's all up here. It's all how are we gonna perceive the situation? Is there really anything to be afraid of? It's not fatal. Whatever happens, it's not fatal. If we feel a little rejected, just turn it around and say, hey, I'm still standing tall. I'm going after my dreams. I appreciate your time, Mr. Prospect. Shake their hand, wish them well, and have a nice day, and you're on to talk to the next. In fact, that's a big word in the industry. If you're feeling discouraged because the last 3 or 5 or 10 people told you no, just stand up tall, throw your shoulders back, smile, and say, next! Go on, talk to somebody else. That's the attitude to take. It's important to be coachable. It's important to latch on to somebody who is a mentor, somebody who can take you by the hand and teach you some of these things, some of these, the right attitudes, the right skill sets, take you through the process, and a lot of times even go through the process with you as you get started so that you can not feel like you're doing it alone. I've actually never had anybody in the industry go through the process with me and actually work side by side with me. They all say they're going to do it, but none of them do. Well, that's something that I do in my business, is I actually work with my people, because that's so important to latch onto somebody who's willing to show you the way, willing to be a coach and work with you. So another thing that's super important is knowing your market, knowing your customer. What's your ideal customer? Is your customer, like, for example, I'm in health and nutrition. So my ideal customer is probably somebody pretty much my age. I'm going to be 60 in this summer, and a baby boomer, maybe somebody who's really starting to get committed to, and they're concerned about their health and where they're going to be in 10 or 20 years. And What are their age? What's the age of somebody who's your ideal customer? Where are they located? Where do they hang out? If you're online, what Facebook groups do they hang out in, or what buyers groups? Who do they follow on Facebook? If they have the same values and the same interests as you, then they're probably your ideal market. In fact, I'll just pause right here to say that your ideal market for your product or service is probably you. Find people like you who want what you want, who want to achieve the benefits that you want, who want to have the same lifestyle that you do, etc. What's their income level? If you're promoting something that's high ticket, then you're going to want to talk to people who make some money, or all you're going to get is, I can't afford that. I don't have the money for that. So what kind of income level does your ideal customer need to have for you to tip the odds in your favor in presenting your product or service to them, especially if it's high ticket? What desires do they have? What goals do they have? What problems do they have? Again, they're probably similar to what yours are. And those types of things will help you identify your ideal customer. Another thing, touching on this again, is boldness. It's so important to be bold, to step out of our comfort zone. I mean, we all experience fear, but we can't let it hold us back. They say that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting in spite of fear. You think about the guys in the armed forces, like back in World War II when they stormed the beach of Normandy in France. They got off the boats there on the beach, and the Germans were right there waiting for them with submachine guns and mortars and everything. I mean, the first guys off those boats, they knew they were probably, they knew they were about to die probably, and yet they had no choice but to act in spite of their fear. And a lot of those men perished, but they all acted in spite of their fear. And of course, we're not going to die in this business. We're just dealing with people here. And again, no one's ever attacked me for sharing the business with them. So it's really important to be bold. I'll tell you another quick story. I was working in a Sam's Club back in 1992. It was soon after I joined Amway, and I was selling a cleaning product and a carpet cleaning product. And I did pretty well with it. I actually sold about 28, 30 bottles a day. I had this little kiosk set up with carpet samples down there and a brush, and I'd take the spray bottle and I'd spray I'd take like crayons or stuff and make marks on the carpet, and then I'd take the spray bottle when a customer walked up and I'd spray it down and I'd brush it out and I'd show people how this cleaning product worked, this carpet cleaning product. And one day I was having a little bit of a lull there, and I looked over to my left, and there's this big guy, this big black guy with muscles. He's a bodybuilder walking straight towards me. And I'm thinking, okay. And he's walking, getting closer and closer, and I'm wondering, okay, does he want to see what I've got? He's a little intimidating, actually. He walked up to me, and he grinned real big, and he goes, let me see what you got. So I showed him my little 2-minute pitch there. I put the marks down, sprayed the carpet right, brushed it out, and he's looking at me going, dude, if you can do that, you can do anything. And then he proceeded to try and recruit me into another network marketing company. Well, he had complimented me. He went on to become a top earner in that company. And he knew how to go about it. He knew he was supposed to compliment his prospect. And he was right. I mean, I was stepping out there. I was being bold. I was doing things that were a little uncomfortable. And he recognized that. Dude, if you can do that, you can do anything. It was awesome. That guy is still one of my best friends today. So the last thing I've got on my list here that's I think is really important, and this doesn't come easily for a lot of people, is trusting. And I was kind of raised to be distrustful of salespeople. My grandfather was in sales, and he had the the typical appearance, the plaid jacket and the hat and the cigar and everything. And my dad would always, behind his back, he'd say, oh, those hucksters, they just want to sell you anything. But my grandfather wasn't like that. I went out with him on a lot of sales calls, and he was never pushy. He was never obnoxious. A lot of times he'd present his prospects with gifts, like bottle of scotch at Christmas or whatnot. But my dad had had some bad experiences with car salespeople and insurance salespeople. And I can't tell you how many times he'd tell me, you can't trust a salesperson. All they'll do is try to take your money. They'll try to give you a line of bull and try and take your money. And, unfortunately, I internalized that, and I had struggles with my attitudes and feelings about sales and marketing for years after that. And one of the things that I had to overcome to be able to persist in this business for as long as I have. So with the more time that goes by, the more I make special efforts to be more trusting, to not assume the worst of somebody trying to recruit me or sell me. And of course, it depends on their behavior and how aggressive they're being, which is, I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. Don't be real aggressive, okay? We'll come back to that. But, depending on their behavior, I work really hard at giving people the benefit of the doubt and and exhibiting as much trust as possible. And at some point I realized, hey, if I'm going to put up my guard and ward people off every single time I'm approached, I'm going to miss a lot of good opportunities because I didn't even take a look. So keep that in your mind here for a minute because that's you're going to want to remember that when you're going out there doing your prospecting as to how you approach people. You don't want people to have their natural sales filter and their natural resistance raise. You're going to want to find ways to get around that, to get to not even have that be an issue. And there's ways to do that I'll talk about here shortly that make that easier than you might think. So be as trusting as you can and operate in a way that that communicates trust. People join people who they know, like, and trust. And the more skills you have in the ability to help people to trust you and to have them to gain rapport with them, it goes back to listening, goes back to caring, goes back to some of these attitudes that we've talked about. If you can demonstrate to people that you can be trusted, that you're likable, that you're a lot like them, that you care about them, then the people that you approach will probably be much more trusting of you. So, all right, page 2. So it goes down to, I learned what I'm about to share with you from my upline in my nutritional products company. His name is Todd. Amazing dude. I won't even take the time now to talk about this guy, but I've learned so much from him. And he always talks about being nice, honest, and respectful. And in the beginning, I was a little obnoxious. Like I said, I pursued the same 8 to 10 people over and over again. I was, too aggressive. I was too pushy. I was talking about, the features of what I had versus listening and trying to find out more about them and what they might want. And he taught me how to sift and sort. It's really important. This is not a sales business. This is a sifting and sorting business. This is a business of going through the numbers to find the people that want what you have, who raise their hand and say, yes, that's what I want. And there's, several ways to do that. But Todd, he lets the wrong people go. He taught me how to let the wrong people go. I mean, instead of trying to talk somebody who's not right for your business into joining your business, just thank them and wish them well and let them go. I mean, you don't want to work with everybody. You want to work with the people who fit well with who you are and what you're promoting and what your vision is for the team that you're on, and so on. And that's so important because you have the ability to choose who you want to work with. It's not like corporate America where you're stuck with people that you might hate. You choose the people you work with. You choose the company you align with. You choose your upline. You choose the people that you prospect. You choose the people that you enroll based on, how does it feel? Does it feel like a good fit? Don't try to sponsor everybody. Don't try to get people involved in something that it's not a good fit. It Trust me, I've done it, and it's not only is it a waste of time, it feels bad and makes the business no fun at all and just not a pleasurable experience. So I came up with an analogy at some point. Excuse me while I take a drink. I came up with an analogy at some point of a costume party. And there's 3 costumes that we want to put on for the party, for the game. I mean, this business is like a game. It's like a party. Have fun with it, right? And so what I do, figuratively speaking, is I put on 3 costumes when I'm out there building my business. And each one serves a purpose. The first is a butler. Okay, I've got my top hat on. I've got my coat and tails, black tuxedo. I've got a silver platter in my hand with a brightly wrapped gift on the silver platter. And basically what I do in the invitation process for people to look at my product or my business, I simply lean forward nicely with the platter in front of me and say, I don't say these exact words, but this is the feeling behind what I'm saying, how I'm approaching them. Would you like the gift? Now, if they say no, they don't want the gift, if they don't even want to open the gift to see what's inside before they say no, hey, you've done your job. You offered the gift. Think of what you have as a gift. Think of what you have. Somebody else put it this way. You've got the cookie. They want the cookie. They may not know they want the cookie, but they want the cookie. Who doesn't want more time, more money, less taxes? You get the drift, right? They all want the cookie. They just don't know they want the cookie. So just offer it. Hey, would you like the cookie? And, back in the day, back in the 80s, I worked in a bunch of restaurants. And I was a waiter a bunch of times and also worked in drive-thrus like at Wendy's and McDonald's. And when I was in network marketing at a rally once, it was presented to me this way, hey, have you ever been a waiter before? Have you ever served French fries in a drive-thru? You just ask, it's called suggestive selling, right? Hey, would you like fries with that? You don't give a crap whether they say yes or no to that question, do you? You may not have done that type of work before, but think about it. Would you like some coffee? Would you like a refill? Would you like some fries with that? You don't care whether they say yes or no. In this business, when you're making your butler approach, when you're behaving like a butler, leaning forward and saying, would you like the gift? You don't care what they say. And when you don't care what they say, it doesn't affect you. And if it doesn't affect you, and if you don't feel rejected, then you can go on and do it again. And then you can go through the numbers. And then you can build your skill while you persist, going through the numbers, because you're not affected by any of it. You're detached, right? We talked about detachment. So just be the butler. The second costume you want to put on is the librarian. Yeah, I know I'm not a woman with gray hair, but that's the vision that I have. Maybe a 50-ish woman with a gray hair and a bun, and a prim and proper blouse, and just scuttling around the library, and she's taken the people that said yes to the invitation, and she's putting them in that file box. And she's taking the people that said no to that invitation, and she's putting them in that file box. She's simply separating them. It's been said before that in order to get a 5-gallon bucket full of yeses, you may have to accumulate a 55-gallon drum full of no's. That's kind of how it works. So just don't worry about it. Just file them away. Yeses go here, no's go here. Okay, the third, and this is kind of cool, the third costume is a scientist, maybe a mad scientist. And a scientist is the one who analyzes the process to find out how to improve it, who does the testing, who does the tweaking, who maybe a Thomas Edison type, right? So he'll look at what was just done. Okay, I approached the person this way, and I said this, and this was their response, and this is the result that I got, and I've done this X number of times. So let's take a look at this. What do I need to tweak or change slightly so that maybe I can get a little bit better results? The scientist does the analysis. The scientist takes what the librarian does, the file cards, the yeses and the nos. Okay, I got yeses. What did I do to get these yeses? I want to do more of that, don't I? I want to do more of the things that caused me to get yeses. And what did I do over here that caused me to get no's? I want to do a lot less of those things, right? Analyze it, figure out what needs to be tested and tweaked, and go forward from there. So, marketing's kind of like fishing, if you think about it. And there's a difference between sales and marketing. I guess I'll just mention that briefly here. Marketing is the act of bringing people to you who are essentially raising their hand. They have an interest in what you have. That can be done through advertising. That can be done through, there's attraction marketing, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. There's even ways to be proactive and reach out to people, but still have them come to you because you're holding back a little bit. You're putting out the right bait, so to speak, and you're letting them come to you as they respond to your invitation. Marketing is like fishing. You don't go out there and grab a fish and take the hook with the worm on it and try to jam the hook into the fish's mouth and go, here, this worm is really tasty. You need to eat this worm. Yes, bite down on this worm. Will you eat the damn worm? Please, please. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. If you've done any fishing, think about using a bobber or a lure. You toss your line in the water, right? Let's say you're using a bobber. And all of a sudden you're looking at the bobber and you see it kind of wiggle a little bit. And then maybe it'll dip down and come right back up. And then it'll dip down and stay down for half a second and then come right back up. And then all of a sudden that fish down there is going to take a big old bite out of that worm, right? And the bobber's gone. It's like racing across the lake, right? And you're just like trying to reel it in, right? That's marketing. That's marketing. You put out some tasty bait. You put out something that people want. A lot of times in marketing, it's like a free offer, free information, something like that. People respond to the word free. It's just letting them nibble on it and taste it, and then if they want it, they're going to go and they're going to bite, right? And then you don't reel them in and act like that, but you know what I'm trying to say. You simply come in at that point and you do your best to serve them and give them what they want. You let them have the worm, you let them taste it, and you give them more. So by contrast, sales is, and this isn't really a sales business. A lot of people think network marketing is sales. Well, I guess it depends upon your definition of sales. Yes and no. Like I was saying earlier, my definition of selling and sales, because of what I learned from my dad, was, being aggressive and being manipulative and being dishonest maybe, and, taking people's money without giving proper value in return, first a lot of times. And that's not sales. That's those are people being scam artists is what that is. Sales, it took some time for me to fully get this. A salesperson is your best friend. Think about it this way. A salesperson is somebody that's going to listen to you, is going to care about you, is going to ask you some questions about what you want or what you need, and is going to help you solve a problem. If somebody helped you solve a problem, would you not be like, oh, thank you so much. You just helped me solve this problem. Here's some money. I mean, nobody has a problem. If you wanted a lawnmower and you walk into Sears or something, and you're looking for a lawnmower, and they showed you the exact lawnmower that you wanted, a riding mower. You're getting too old to push the mower, right? So you want a riding mower with a nice cushy seat and the proper horsepower and a wide enough blade circumference, to get. I mean, if you find exactly what you want, if the salesperson educated you on what that lawnmower did and it met your specifications and he was helping you solve your problem, would you not happily pull out money from your wallet or your credit card and buy it and say, thank you, you helped me solve my problem? That's what sales is. Sales is not manipulation or being a scammer. Sales is not lying to people. Sales is helping somebody solve a problem. And that's the difference between sales and marketing. So marketing usually comes first. Attract them towards you in some way. And then selling is where you come in after that. Once you've got an audience of people that are waiting to hear what you have to say, then you sell them. You help them solve their problem. You listen to them and you help them get what they want. So going to get a little bit now into the process of building a network marketing business. And it's important to trust the process because, there's God made this planet in a certain way, right? There's the way things are. You can't really change it. It is what it is. The world we live in, the universe we live in, it is what it is. And I said that to say this, think about the 4 seasons. There's 4 seasons, right? Spring, summer, fall, and winter. And there's nothing we can do to change it. There's nothing we can do to change the order of it, And when it comes to, like, let's say you're a farmer and you want to plant crops and you want to harvest crops. The only reason to plant crops is to ultimately harvest crops, right? So you go out there, think of the Johnny Appleseed story. Johnny Appleseed, and I might not have all the details right, but bear with me here. Johnny Appleseed goes out there one day and he's got a bag full of seed, right? He's walking down the hedgerow there and he's throwing seeds out, right? He wants to grow whatever, well, apples, I guess. He's Johnny Appleseed, right? So he's throwing out the apple seeds, right? And he trusts in the process. He knows that he's eventually going to get apples. But what he doesn't, until somebody educates him, he may not know that, well, what happens when the sun comes out? It stops raining and, they got their initial bit of water and then the sun comes out and the sun burns off the seeds and dries up all the water and the seeds have no more water to grow. So some of them die. Some survive, obviously, but a lot of them die because the sun burns off the moisture and kills the seeds. Well, then the ones that survive that, they start to sprout, right? They're coming through the ground. They're growing up into, they got these little sprouts, an inch tall, 2 inches tall, whatnot. Well, what's the next obstacle? Well, the animals, or maybe the insects. Let's say the rabbit comes along and starts to eat those little sprouts. Oh, yum, yum, the good sprouts, yummy sprouts. The rabbits or the insects come by and destroy the sprouts or whatever happens. And a lot of those sprouts die or get consumed, but not all of them. A lot of them survive, right? So they start to grow, right? They come out. And they're maybe developed in a thicket. There's weeds and there's other bushes and maybe some thorns and stuff. And some of those sprouts, as they grow, they get kind of dwarfed by the thorns and the bushes and tangled up, and they might die because they don't have the ability to grow freely. And then the ones that make it, the ones that survive those 3 things, the sun, the insects or the animals, and the thorns and the thickets, the plants that survive those 3 things, those are the plants that end up being there for the harvest. Those are the ones that grow into apple trees. Those are the ones where you can go out and pick apples off when they're ripe on the trees. And the process of building a network marketing is simply the same. There's going to be a lot of people going to say no. Most people are going to say no. Okay, just accept that. Most people will say no. Just keep going. The ones that say yes, remember the Bill Britt story. The ones that say yes, some of them might quit after a day or a week or a month, or order one product or use the service for a month and then say, I don't really like this. I'm out of here. I'm gone. But some of them won't. And then maybe some of them will go to work and they'll do a little bit. They'll do this much. They'll work for a month, or they'll work for 6 months, or maybe even a year, and then they'll get discouraged and they quit. But the ones that don't, they'll persist. And some of those people will be super serious. And some of those people will go on to be top earners in your company, in your downline. I've heard it many times that most of the top earners in the industry only have 3 to 5 super serious, super committed, super successful people in their group. And the rest of the group is either customers, consumers, or people doing a little bit, the part-timers, the people bringing in a few $100s in volume, or maybe a few $1,000s in volume. But the majority of their success only comes down to the efforts of 3 to 5 leaders. And the only way to find those leaders is to go through all of them, to go through everybody, to find the ones that'll join, to find the ones that'll stay after a month, to find the ones that are going to do anything at all, to find the ones that are going to persist longer than a few months or a year, to find the ones that are going to commit, to find the ones that are going to go all the way to the top and be top producers in your organization. The process is what it is. You can't change it. You can't modify it. You just, again, you don't ask why. Jim Rohn says you don't ask why. Don't sign up for that class. Don't ask, why can't it be easier? Why is this not happening for me? Why can't it be faster? I want to make money now. We have to be grounded in reality. We have to be accepting of the process. We have to be okay with the way God set it up. Even God only had 12 disciples, right? How many people did he talk to? I have no idea. But he ended up with 12 disciples, 12 frontline, right? And how many people are Christians today? I don't know. A quarter of the world's population, maybe more. A lot of people. Millions and millions of people are in God's downline because of the process. So, if one person can do this business, and a lot more than one person has made it all the way to the top, but if one person can do this business, so can you. Here's a cool story that illustrates that. There was a guy back in the, I think it was in the 50s. His name was Roger Bannister. And up until that point, no one had ever successfully run a mile in under 4 minutes. And Bannister was a runner. And he thought he could do it. So he tried, and I'm sure he failed a bunch of times. I don't know the exact story there. All I know is, and here's the best part, all I know, he eventually succeeded in running a 4-minute mile. He got it down where he ran that mile in less than 4 minutes. You know what the coolest thing was? Prior to that, no one had ever done it. No one. Lots of people had tried, but no one had done it. But the year after Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile, I believe it was 11 other people did the exact same thing. Why? Because they knew it was possible. Why? Because somebody else had done it. So if anybody can get to the top of their network marketing compensation plan, you can too. Just model the guys that did it. If you were a runner, you'd want to be like interviewing Roger Bannister, right? You'd be going, okay, what did you eat? What was your training schedule? How did you think? What were your attitudes? The whole 9 yards. You'd be asking all kinds of questions. How did you go from point A to point B? How did you run that 4-minute mile? And you'd be modeling his behavior so that you can do the same thing. It's no different here in network marketing. If one person can do it, you can too. So, in order to build a long-term business, we have to embody all of this stuff. We have to accept the game for what it is. We have to build the right attitudes. We have to build a few key skills. None of them are particularly difficult. And we have to be patient. We have to be committed. We can't expect to make money next week. Is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible, depending on where you are on your personal development journey. But I wouldn't count on it, especially if you're a newbie. Just get in the game. Just get started. Say, yes, I'm going to go for it. Even if you're not sure that you can. Just realize if one person did it, you can too. If a lot of people have done it, well then heck, it's a surefire thing for you. So, personal development itself is, like I said earlier, it's a personal development game disguised as a business. It's basically a leadership factory. Who can become a leader? Because people follow leaders. People follow people that know what they're doing. People follow leaders that are the example of the proper behaviors, the proper attitudes, the proper actions in the business. People follow those people. And so personal development is key. A lot of people think that, okay, I can't succeed if I don't have a big paycheck. I can't go out there on social media and flash $1 million check, so therefore I don't have what it takes to succeed. They think it's a matter of have, then do, and then be. In other words, they have to have the success story or have the check, then they can go out and do it because they have this validation or proof, and then they're going to be successful. Actually, folks, that's backwards. That's not how it works. In this business and in life, the order is you have to be first, then you do, and then you will have. You have to be the person that has the right attitudes. You have to be the person who cares about people. You have to be the person who is going to commit and be patient. You have to be the person who is aligned with their values and congruent with themselves and not at war with themselves. You have to be somebody who's worked on yourself and grown in the process and dealt with rejection and dealt with failure and dealt with all the challenges in the business. And as you be that person, then you can continue moving forward, and now you're doing. You be first, and then you do. And then as you go through those two steps and persist long term, then you have the success story. Now remember, success is subjective. Everybody defines it differently. For one person it might be, hey, I've earned $300 a month so I can help pay down my mortgage or my car payment. Awesome. You define success for yourself. Somebody else, they're on the other end of the spectrum. Their definition of success is, hey, I've got, a six-figure income and I just bought a house in the Hamptons or whatever. Everyone's definition is different, but that's the order. Be, then do, and then have. And become a person of value. Part of the be process is become a person of value. And that means, and I've got a video here on my YouTube channel entitled How to Become a Person of Value, so you might want to take a look at that. But it's all about, how much have you worked on yourself? How many trials and tribulations have you gone through? What obstacles have you overcome? What have you accomplished? What kind of results have you gotten so far? One of my mentors in one of the companies I was in put it this way. He goes, do these three things simultaneously. Learn, do, and teach. Learn proper skills. Learn, model the correct attitudes, the correct mindsets. Then do them, embody them, demonstrate them. Skills, practice those skills. Tweak and test, try again, and teach. Go to people and say, this is what I've done. This is what I've learned. This is what worked. This is what didn't work. And teach to people. And do those three things simultaneously. Leaders learn, do, and teach. Now, network marketing is, there's two words there, right? Network and marketing. We've already talked about marketing a little bit. But what about the word network? Network goes back to being social. Network is, and there's lots of books out there on networking. You might look up a book by, let's see, her last name is Roane, Roane. I can't remember her first name. It might be Susan. Can't recall, but she's got a good book on networking. Harvey Mackay wrote some books on networking. There's lots of books on networking. What it takes is being of service to people. I mean, let's say an insurance agent or a real estate agent or somebody, another professional that would be a good possible resource for you for referrals. Well, then be a source of referrals for them. Network with them. Hey, do you have something I can do for you? Is there a problem that you have that I can help you solve? And you're not selling at that point. You're being of service. You're becoming a person of value. You're offering to help somebody with a problem without being compensated for it. You're networking. You're being valuable. Well, you've heard the expression, what goes around comes around, right? Absolutely. It's karma. What goes around comes around. If you help a lot of people, don't you think all that's going to come back to you? Might not be from the same people. Don't be keeping score. Don't be, hey, I did this for you, so you have to do this for me. No. But trust the universe. What you put out there will come back to you. And so that's networking. So we network and we market. We throw out tasty bait for somebody, some free, some referrals, some free resources, some information, some training, whatnot. We network and we market and we draw people to us through this process. And then, it's not really sales like we talked about, but then we sell. We help them solve a problem. We present what we have, and then we ask them if they'd like to join or enroll or buy. It's pretty much that simple. Now I want to talk a little bit about spamming versus attracting people. And, we've all seen it in the Facebook groups. I'm definitely going to get into social media here shortly, but I want to take a minute to talk about this. Spamming is a loose definition for that. The way I look at it is spamming is offering somebody or giving somebody information they didn't ask for. Spamming is being aggressive. Spamming is not getting permission to share what you have. Spamming is being obnoxious. Attraction, on the other hand, is behaving or inviting or doing the business in a way that causes people to lean forward and go, tell me more about that. You've piqued my interest. Let me know more about what you have. And I'm going to get more into that here in a bit. In fact, I've got a great approach that I put together that works wonderfully well that I'm going to share with you here in a little bit that makes that whole process really easy. But attraction marketing is some of the gurus out there. They present it the wrong way. They say, oh, all you got to do is post motivational quotes on Facebook, or flash a picture of a fancy car or a fancy home. Even fake it. And some people out there, they do that. They'll rent a Mercedes, or they'll stand in front of their somebody's house in the neighboring community that they've got a $500,000 house, and they'll take a picture in front of it. And some people do that. Now, is that common? I don't think it's common, but it does happen. It can happen. And as far as attraction marketing, the only way you're going to attract people, again, I've mentioned this before, the only way you're going to attract people to you is by being somebody who's attractive. It's not about faking anything. It's not about lying. It's not about manipulating people or anything. It's about being first. And then once you get into your marketing journey and have some results, you can share those results. Or if you don't have a story or results yet, you can always leverage your upline. You can do what they call track upline. Hey, I got involved in this business, and my business partner that I'm working directly with, oh man, this guy he just helped 5 people go director. I'm going to be next, and he's making some really serious money. And he's looking to help some more people do the same. You and I can work with him directly together. Something like that. Leverage somebody else's story. If you don't have a story that you feel is attractive yet, or if you don't have the results that you feel you need to have to get signups. And gurus misrepresent the attraction marketing. You just sit back and people will come to you on Facebook and want to sign up based on your Facebook lives or your curiosity posts or whatever. Well, can it happen? Yes, of course it can happen. But you're probably not going to be that, you're not going to make that work for you as a new person. You have to be first. You have to have some battle scars first. You have to have a little bit of a story, a little bit of results, or leverage somebody else's results, or be nice, honest, and respectful and have people want to lean forward because of who you are. That's how you attract people to you, not by faking it until you make it. And while we're on that subject, I want to talk about the difference between fake it until you make it and act as if, because they share some similarities, but they're not the same. And this is a perfect spot to bring this up. Fake it till you make it is, hey, you go out and you lease a fancy car so you can impress your prospects when you drive up. That's lying. That's manipulation. You're not going to do that. Fake it. Go out and buy a tuxedo or a 3-piece suit when you can barely put food on the table or stuff like that, right? That's faking it until you make it. That's being manipulative. But acting as if is a whole different. Some people call it posture. Some people call it, hey, I'm training my subconscious mind to be the person who's going to make this work. I'm presenting myself as a person of value. I'm offering value. I'm acting confident. I'm acting. You get what I'm trying to say. You don't want to lie or deceive people, but it's okay to have some posture, to have some confidence, to be the person now that, if you want to be a millionaire, for example, then it's important as soon as possible to start acting, believing, behaving, and talking like a millionaire, even if you're not. How else are you going to get your subconscious mind to accept the fact that you're a millionaire now? And you don't want there to be a gap. You don't want to be saying to yourself, I will be a millionaire in X number of months or whatever. You want to feel like a millionaire now. You want to act like a millionaire now. You want to have the confidence of a millionaire now. There is no gap. That's how you get your subconscious mind to make those little behind-the-scenes tweaks and further progress you down the road towards achieving your dreams and goals. That's how that happens, by believing now that you are the person that is enjoying the lifestyle that you are pursuing. Believe it now. All this ties into attraction marketing. All this ties into using your subconscious mind. It's all extremely important. Okay, Okay, we're at an hour and 24 minutes now. I'm going to keep this rolling. I'm going to try and speed this up just a little bit, but we're getting close to, we're going to go through the process now of what it takes to build a network marketing business. And before I get into that, I want to talk really briefly about tools. You've heard it said, tools are so important. And the most powerful tool that you have in building your network marketing business is not a CD, it's not a video, it's not a website, it's your personal story. It's your story. And I want to take a minute to share with you how to construct your story. Your story, everybody wants to be a hero, and everybody feels good about the possibility of being a hero. So you construct your story based around a hero's journey. And examples of that, you might say, hey, I was the underdog, I was the guy who struggled my entire life or whatnot, and this and that, and all of a sudden I found XYZ, and I learned XYZ, and I did XYZ, and this is how I went from here to here. And that's an underdog, a hero's journey type of story. Or an evangelist, I found this. I found something that I'm so excited about, and it's caused me to, see my life in a completely different way. And I'm just so excited to share this with people. And this is what my life was like before I found this. And then I found XYZ, and I was so excited about it. And here's what I saw in that. I saw that it could help me with this, and I knew it could help other people with that. And this is how I felt about it. I just felt so excited, and I couldn't wait to share it with people because I knew that I could help people solve their problems. And this is what my outlook is now. I feel like I'm already on my way. I'm well on my way. I've achieved my first rank advancement. I'm confident that I'm going to achieve the goals that I want in the next year, or whatever time frame. You construct your story like that. What your life was like, what you found, what you saw or what you realized when you found it, how you felt about it, and what your outlook is now. That's how to construct a story. Now, that's your most powerful tool, is your story, but there's third-party tools, and I'm going to get into this in the process here in a minute, but a third-party tool is the other things that I mentioned, your videos, your website, your a CD, if any companies are still doing that, your audio message, whatnot, because it's important in this business. You want to be the messenger, not the message. As much as possible, you can do a presentation yourself. You can sit down with somebody or get on the phone or even record a video presenting everything, your company, your compensation, your products. You can do that, and there are effective ways to do that. But it's easier, simpler, and more doable for a new person to use a third-party tool. Just invite somebody to take a look, strike some interest, invite somebody to take a look at your tool, send them to the tool, send them to the website, send them to the video, and then follow up and answer their questions, or get somebody more experienced involved so they can get the prospect's questions answered, and then ask for the enrollment. That's pretty much all there is. So here's the process. Number one, you do want to strike interest. How do you do that? You can, it's basically, like I said before, putting out some tasty bait. I'll do another video, so I don't make this too long. I'll do another video that you'll find here on my channel with some specific examples of this. But you make a comment or use a phrase that invokes or that invokes interest, that gives a benefit, that gives talk about feelings and benefits. I felt this. I'm looking for people who want the same thing, etc. And the approach that I mentioned earlier about using phrases and invitations that get past a sales filter so that they impact a prospect's subconscious mind in a way that they don't raise their guard. That's really important too. And look up a guy named Mark Januszewski. I'll put his name down in the description of this video. Look him up for resources and material on how to prospect and strike interest by bypassing a person's sales filter and getting to the subconscious mind. So again, what my mentor Todd taught me: when you invite somebody, just be nice, honest, and respectful. And again, I'll provide examples in another video. But a key thing to use when you're actually physically inviting somebody is, don't use the word interested. Don't say, "Are you interested in taking a look?" or "Would you be interested in this?" Use the word open instead, because nobody can be interested in something that they don't know anything about yet. Interest comes later. If they see a few, if they hear a story or see a few facts or whatnot, then maybe they're interested in learning more. But in the beginning, when you're approaching them, a phrase to use would be, "Hey, I found something, XYZ that gives ABC benefit, and I thought of you. You're somebody I'd love to work with. Are you open to learning about it? Would you be open to taking a look?" And nobody wants to be closed-minded. So chances are, if you ask the question, "Are you open?" They're going to probably say, "Well, yeah, I'll take a look." And they're going to be consistent. They're gonna take a look. They're gonna be open, because nobody wants to be that ostrich with his head in the sand, and he's hiding his eyes because he doesn't want to see the what's coming to harm him. He doesn't want to. He wants to be open, eyes open. Being open, a mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So use that word, open. And then at that point, maybe throw your story right in there. Okay, this is what I found. I already went through all that. Tell your story really briefly. Doesn't have to be more than a minute or two. And have several different versions of your story, depending on whether you're speaking about your product or your service or the opportunity. Construct and practice your story based on these things so that you can basically rattle it off. If somebody says, "Hey, what do you do?" you might tell your story real quick. They call it an elevator pitch in the business. If you're in the elevator and you've got 60 seconds to pique somebody's interest in what you have, what are you going to say? Are you going to talk about features and comp plans and no, you're going to talk about benefits. This is what it did for me. This is what it's doing for people. This is how I feel about it. This is, and then they're going to go, maybe I would want to feel that way too. And they might be open to, there you've got an opportunity to trade phone numbers, get a business card or whatnot, and follow up. So tell the story. Then point somebody to a third-party tool at that point. Give them your website. Give them your video, your online video. Give them your audio message, whatever. Put them on a three-way call with somebody more experienced and let them do the presentation. There's all kinds of ways to do that. And then follow up with them. "Hey, did you get a chance to take a look at that? Hey, did you listen to the audio I sent you? Hey, how did you feel about that?" Play into people's personalities. If you think they're a feeling type of person, how did you feel about that? If they're a visual person, so how did that look to you? If they're a audio type of person, hey, does that sound good to you? Use words that correspond with the way they process information. Let's say they have objections. That's fine. Now, there's several different ways to handle objections. A lot of network marketers don't even deal with objections. If a prospect has objections, they're going to say, "Hey, it doesn't really sound like this is for you." Especially if they're like dumb objections, like "I've got no time," or "I've got no money," or whatever. Chances are those are people just trying to evade you. They're people trying to come up with an excuse, and that's what some top prospectors are believing. And hey, this doesn't sound like it's for you. Shake their hand and say, "Hey, take care. I wish you the best." Or if you want to try and deal with objections, there's a couple ways to do that. You can use what's called feel, felt, found. "Oh, you don't have any time? Well, I understand how you feel. I felt the same way when I got started. I was so busy with my corporate job, I didn't know how I could possibly fit this in. But what I found out, what I discovered was that it really, I can be effective in like 1 or 2 hours a day, or just kind of fit this in between appointments, or I found a way to do it in spite of my concern. Does that make sense to you? Or something like that. Or you can even a little bit more directly answer objections. Oh, you don't have any money? Um, how do you feel about that? Do you would you like a solution to that so that that won't be a problem for the rest of your life? If you want to be a little more aggressive, a little more proactive with that, you can kind of gently poke them a little bit. Oh, you don't have any time? Wow, I understand, but how does that make you feel? I mean, do you want that to change? Just kind of poke them a little bit and maybe get them to realize, that's really not that great of an excuse. So you can deal with objections in a few different ways. And then closing. Closing is a sales term. Closing, a lot of people think of closing like in sales as, okay, get them, kind of back them into a corner and, get them to sign on the dotted line and, kind of overcome all their objections and back them into a corner and get them involved. And well, closing in network marketing is completely different. Closing is just asking for the sale, asking for the enrollment. Hey, you ready to get started? Do you see how this would work for you? Are you ready to start enjoying the benefits of this product? Just find a way to ask the question. Again, you won't get any enrollments or sales if you don't ask. And also, get referrals. If somebody doesn't really, if they say, this isn't my cup of tea, but thanks, say, hey, that's fine. I really appreciate you, taking a look at what I had. And, it might not be for you, but maybe you know somebody that I should talk to. Do you know somebody who, really wants to build up their retirement funds and maybe would be open to taking a look at something like this? Do you know somebody who wants to pay off their college debt and might be open to a business like this? Do you know somebody who wants to feel better and have more energy and might be interested in taking a look at a product like this, or even trying it out for a month, risk-free, that sort of thing? Try to get referrals. So the most powerful invitation that I've ever used in my business is basically a third party or referral type of presentation. And think about it. If you ask somebody if they're open or if they're interested in what you would like to share with them and they say no, it kind of feels like rejection, doesn't it? I mean, it feels like a personal thing. And even though it's not, a lot of us still have, they just can't help. We can't help sometimes but feel rejected. And so the best way that I found to deal with that is to use some type of third party approach, because then if they say no, they don't, you say, hey, do you know anybody who would love to learn about a way to put an extra $500 or $1,000 in their pocket without any selling? And they go, no, really can't think of anybody. Well, that doesn't really feel like rejection, right? I mean, they just don't know anybody who fits that description. So I think I actually have 2 videos here on my channel that go into this in detail, so I'm not going to go into it here because this video, we're at 1 hour and 38 minutes right now. But I have 2 videos on my channel. One I think is titled the easiest approach or something like that, easiest recruiting approach or something like that. And then there's another one as well. I can't remember the title, but they're both less than 15 minutes long. Look for those videos and they give you a great example of a third-party approach that takes advantage of a few really key things that I learned from several top producers in the industry, and I will share with that real quick right now. I learned from a guy named Joe who was a door-to-door meat salesman before he was a top producer in the network marketing business, how to kind of misdirect people's attention so that they aren't feeling like they're being approached and they don't have their sales filter come up. And what he would do is just kind of look around and, hey, do you know, he would go up to a door and say, hey, do you know so and so down the road? And I was over here talking to Mrs. Jones and dropped off some orders to her, and hey, just talk about something other than the reason that you're there for a few seconds to get people's comfort level right there and avoid them feeling like, you don't want to come up to people, hi, I'm such and such with so and I'm here to show you my TV service or my, insurance plan, or, I mean, just kind of misdirect people's attention. A good way to do that is, hey, maybe you can help me out. I'm looking to, could you point me in the right direction? Something like that. And then I learned from a marketer named Kim Claver that I need to look her up as well. Describing a product or a service or an opportunity by describing the type of person that it would appeal to. So, I'm looking for somebody who wants to achieve this benefit, or I'm looking for somebody who is you get the idea. And that actually kind of causes their ear to perk up, because if they're that person, if they're the person looking for that benefit or that feeling or that experience, then they're going to go, well, maybe I might be interested in that, and they're going to lean forward and ask about what you do, and then go from there. So again, look up those two videos that I mentioned on my channel here, and you'll get some details about that type of approach. It's very powerful, and the best thing about it is, since you don't feel rejected, since you don't feel like you're failing if they say no, and just saying I don't know anybody, then you can go on and go through the numbers because you don't feel weird about it. They don't feel weird about it. No one has ever cussed me out or gotten upset or the worst I've ever gotten is, nope, can't think of anybody. Okay, cool, thanks, appreciate it. And just go on, do it. You can do that all day long because you don't feel rejected or like you're failing. So, what is rejection anyway? It's a feeling, right? It's all up here. It's not an event. It's not an actual occurrence. It's a feeling. It's natural. We all feel rejected once in a while. It's not fatal. The key is to detach from that. The key is to get that thick skin. Just have it bounce right off. Just bounce. You're like the rhinoceros. It doesn't bother you. You're not being rejected. They're just saying no to the idea that you have. It's not personal. It's really important to embody that. And again, use the word open rather than interested, and that'll help a lot in that process. And while we're on that topic, and I'm going to get to social media here in a minute, but I want to talk about ghosting on social media in Messenger. If you reach out to somebody in Messenger, for example, and they don't reply, that's called ghosting. They just poof, they disappeared like a ghost. That feels like rejection too, right? I mean, it has for me at times, and then I realized what it really is. Ghosting can mean a lot of different things. What if the guy or gal that you're talking to got busy, had to go on an appointment, or dinner was ready, or their kid was crying, or there was a diaper to be changed, or somebody knocked at the door, or they got a phone call, or what if something interrupted them and they had to go, and maybe they forgot about the conversation for a little while. Well, that's nothing personal. It has nothing to do with you. So there's no reason to feel rejected or weird about that, because the chances are overwhelming, especially if you're being nice, honest, and respectful. The chances are overwhelming that it's not about you at all. It's not personal. So don't jump to that conclusion that it is personal. Just, hey, maybe they got busy. Maybe they got interrupted. And, if you don't hear back in a few hours or a day or whatever, you might come back and just kind of poke them a little bit. You might just pop in a question mark, hit send, just a question mark. Then they'll come back to their messenger and see a question mark. Oh yeah, I was having a conversation with, Susie, and yeah, we didn't finish that conversation, and she's asking me, hey, question mark. Or you might, if you send like a voice drop, for example, you can send a voice message in Messenger, and they don't reply to it. Just come back and say, hey, did you get my message? Did you hear my audio message? Oh no, I didn't know what that was. I didn't. Oh, is that what that is? Yeah, just hit that little triangle there on the end, and you can hear my audio. Oh, okay, and then they'll listen to it, and you just gently remind them that you were having a conversation, or gently poke them with a question mark, or hey, did you get my response? And chances are pretty good that you can resume the conversation. Again, if you're not being aggressive, if you are being nice, honest, and respectful, if you are giving them permission to say no, hey, it's okay if you're not, open to what I have. I just thought of you. If it's not, that's cool. We're still going to be friends. These are all attitudes that we have to demonstrate in order to do our part in doing the process in the business so that we can harvest the successful results in the end and not feel rejected or like we're experiencing failure. So let's get into social media real quick. Social media is, and I'm going to make this fairly fast. If you're posting on Facebook or social media, don't talk about your business. Don't talk about your product or your service. Don't talk about anything other than the benefits, and be a person of mystery. Talk about the benefits. Talk about feelings. Talk about experiences. Talk about stories, but don't talk about the details of what you have, because as soon as you start talking about your business or your product or service, a lot of people are probably just going to tune you out. I mean, I know that's the case that I've experienced every time that I've done that. So give value in your social media posts. Offer helpful tips. Tell stories. Don't. I would recommend not flashing numbers and checks and money and results. I mean, some people do that, and some people, maybe that helps them. But as a new person, you're not going to want to do that. I mean, you probably don't have the money to flash anyway at this point. But just give value and be a person. Show your face. Take pictures. I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with showing their face on social media, but pictures and videos are how to get people to know, like, and trust you. And tell stories and not be aggressive or obnoxious in your social media posts. All business is a conversation, and the trick is to keep the conversation going by posting and then following up in Messenger, or having conversations with people after they respond to your posts in Messenger. Keep the conversation going, and the possibilities for your business are pretty much endless. So again, Facebook Lives and photographs are really important, and I know it's uncomfortable, but step out and do it. Trust me on this. The people that you respond to are the people that you see their face on social media. So do 30 lives in 30 days, or at least a few per week, and get over your feeling of discomfort. People don't respond to polished, perfect presenters. They respond to people that are vulnerable, that aren't afraid to tell some of their weaknesses, that aren't afraid to be a real human being. You do that, you show your face and be vulnerable and real, you'll be surprised at the people that will respond to you and reach out to you and want to know more, or at least be receptive when you reach out to them with an offer to invite them. So my battery is actually